The light is gonna bother me.
Hi, everybody in the world. You get to see that I have no idea what I'm doing here, but I'm figuring it out as we go. I only did this once, like 2 years ago.
Don't look at me. I'm a terrible millennial.
I think it's working now, though. You get to see the kind of shut that off in the background so no one will have to hear my myriad echoes. Want to introduce, of course, the venerable Amy Blackthorn, author of Blackthorn's Botanical Wellness, A Green Witch's Guide to Self-Care. Definitely check that out. It was a very cool book. I really enjoyed reading that one. And Jean, maker of this very cool hat, who is a dear friend, and I'm delighted that they came to hang out with me. Jean, what pronouns do you prefer? I didn't edit you on screen. Apologies.
Oh, she, her's fine.
She, her. All the femme folks today.
Should turn my phone off, shouldn't I?
Probably.
Sorry about that.
Very special guest, though, is my oldest offspring, Rain, who is a student at UNCA. I'm very proud that they are joining us by audio today. I thought it would be really cool to have them pop in because they are one of the people that The Bones Fall in a Spiral is dedicated to. Of course, this is the book's birthday party, so yay that. Rain, terribly sorry that we have misprint fuckery, so your dedication is behind this advertisement. Nothing goes perfectly, and the first printing of the paperback has some screwy page numbering, unfortunately, and some of those intentionally left blank pages got dropped out, so some things are on the wrong sides of pages, which is a huge bummer, but I'm still so proud of it. Went through a ton to get this book out into the world. It feels like it was sort of pried out of my meat, so very, very happy it exists at all. Rain, what is it like having your name printed in lots of books? I imagine that's it sound kind of strange.
Definitely a weird feeling.
Weird good, weird bad. I could probably have stood to have asked before I just crammed you into things.
Whatever. I mean, it's cool. It's definitely like being in the credits of a movie, like kind of vibe. So it's like, you don't know who this is, but my name's in this book. Look, that's super cool.
Yeah, I have relevance in the world. Though to be fair, I also put an acknowledgement to a cat in this book, so.
I did not know that.
Well, you all know how I like to be hiding stuff in books. Anyone who knows me very well knows I just put all kinds of jackass stuff in there, but if you look at the acknowledgement to FDC Willard, my thanks for their useful contributions to the discussion of physics contained within. FD is Felix Domesticus, and the C was for the cat's name, Chester. FDC Willard wound up being the co-author of a physics paper back in, the 60s or 70s, because the author of the paper used we in the formatting of their paper, and they were afraid it was going to be rejected by journals, and they didn't want to rewrite the whole thing, so they just listed their cat as a co-author. Later, someone published a whole paper and dedicated it solely to the cat, so the cat has authored an entire paper on their own. They have a wiki page.
I mean, if the cat helped, he helped.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite weird little details.
I think I remember hearing about that at some point.
Probably me rambling on about something. Joining us is the very, very fabulous Morpheus Ravenna. Morpheus, what pronouns would you like on screen?
I use she, her, but I spell them weirdly. So
I'll
I
let
will,
you edit them.
yeah, I'll adjust that. Thank you for inviting me to be here. I'm happy to be here.
Pleasure. wanted to tell everybody your new book is The Magic of the Otherworld, Modern Sorcery from the Wellspring of Celtic Traditions. I very much enjoyed reading that and was supposed to write a blurb for it. And then I had like crazy cancer scare health stuff and like super failed to do that. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
Life got very
Thank you.
scary for like this much time and everything
Yeah.
disappeared around me.
Stuff gets real sometimes, and that comes first.
Seriously. I am going to put a link to it in the chat down there. Everyone, I'm using Amazon as links because I'm very lazy, but please buy these books from awesome local booksellers and ask your local library to pick up a copy for their collection because that's free for you and everyone else, but libraries make great customers for authors.
Thank you for saying so.
I'm a big fan of supporting local libraries and reminding people they exist. There's this app I've been using lately. I don't want to say their name incorrectly because I will, and then I will feel terrible. Where's their full name? Oh my gosh. But basically it's an app where you can put in your library card number and your state, and it gives you access to the entire library system from your phone. It's called Libby. Libby's a really cool app. I love it a lot. I'll put a link down in.
Oh yeah, the Carnegie Library here in Pittsburgh, they are part of Libby.
Libby is awesome. Even my tiny small town is part of Libby. I had to request it, but they added it very, very quickly, and that's cool. So it's a great little way to connect with books, you know, in a digital format, and they have a ton of audiobooks too, which is cool. Oh, we lost your audio, Amy.
I think you're just muted, Amy.
Thank you. I was trying to hit the button and it was not working. They just got bought out by Simon & Schuster, or their parent company just bought Simon & Schuster. So I'm hoping their reach will expand exponentially.
That would be awesome. That would be really, really cool. One thing I was surprised to learn, I'm so apt to use my local library's electronic system and not go in person, which I've been trying to break myself of that terrible habit, and went in with the kids recently, and they had expanded this entire section where they had 3D printers you could rent, and they had like a resin printer, they had boxes of art supplies,
Like a tool library.
yes, they had
Yeah.
like cake pans and stuff you could check out. It was super cool. Tons of just wacky things I never thought of that
Love
definitely weren't there the last time I went, so that was neat.
I hope you all don't mind I'm painting while we chat.
I adore that.
So if it looks like I'm not looking at the screen all the time, that's because I'm
Because you're not.
yeah.
I'm so tickled to get to see your face 2 times in 1 month.
Jean,
Yeah, it was great to hang out at Temple Fest.
do you sell your awesome hats, Jean?
This is the only one I've made.
You
That's
made
fantastic.
that?
Yeah, my friend, I don't know if she's joining tonight. I hope she is. But my friend Beth Sherry, who Mortellus has sort of electronically met, Beth is a costumer. She's a seamstress, and she runs Proxima Vintage, where she resells vintage, but she will also create custom vintage inspired lingerie for any and all and no gender.
Awesome.
Oh, that's amazing.
She's
That's
teaching
a
me how
good
to sew.
comment.
And so this was the we made this hat from scratch. This was like my 3rd project. The first one was a kimono style jacket that we made reversible. And then I made a shirt, and then I made this, and I've made a few other things.
That is extremely fabulous.
Thank you. I'm part of Nina's Moon Witch Dancers, so I have to have a fabulous hat for dancing the witches dance.
Well, I look forward to a day when you're taking commissions for cool stuff. I hear another of our special guests.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, it's 2 of my favorite people in the whole world.
This
Hello,
is
folks.
Luna. I thought
Hi.
everyone might like to see who the book was dedicated to in real life. Soren, can you say hi?
Hello.
And can you say hi? And
How's it
Rain,
going?
of course,
Meet you.
my oldest kiddo in the background.
Hello. Hi, Soren and Luna.
My spouse, Joseph. You
Hello.
have to actually come on screen.
I just stopped myself from leaning forward myself. Like, I'm gonna lean this way to see you.
It doesn't work that way.
So one of the things I was going to do tonight was make a very cool announcement. So Joseph, who can be found on social media as Vandalheart Studio, is an amazing illustrator.
I'm all right.
And we are officially collaborating on an Oracle deck.
Sweet. Yes.
It is called Further Down the Spiral, a Necromancer's Oracle.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, we're already putting a few work in progress images up on Patreon for folks to look at. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see how we wind up divorced because of it. It's gonna be wonderful and horrible. I'm sure. No, I'm very excited to collaborate though. Oh, I have an I love you from Luna.
Ooh.
Lovely.
No, it's exciting. It's always great to be able to collaborate with people in your life and work on projects together. And I'm stoked about it. I think it's going to be
A lot of
something.
work.
It's a lot of work. It's going to be something I couldn't have made alone, and something they couldn't have made alone. And
Yep.
something we'll both hate a little bit, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
That is incredible.
Yeah, super exciting. That's going to be great.
Very, very excited. That's really beautiful, Luna. Thank you so much. But now
You know, I love creative collaborations. What I'm working on right now is for a collaborative project, and with somebody I've been working on this with for 5 years. And yeah, I feel like, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like sometimes there's like a creative fertility that happens when you're collaborating with people that is very rich, and it's different than when you are just like sitting in your own space working with your own ideas. Like there's just like a richness when you are working on collaborative projects.
That's so true. And Joseph is a character illustrator and just does all these amazing character portraits.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I go, I want to make a deck where you basically never see people so everyone can see themselves in it. So I took their box and I stepped on it.
No more box.
No more box. Oh my goodness. They're very excited to be up past their bedtime, I think.
Yes.
Yes, very much so.
I was always excited to be up past my bedtime.
Morpheus, I see Mary B in the comments says they are reading your book right now.
Hurrah! Well, I hope you like it.
Soren and Luna, would you like to say goodnight to everyone?
Good night.
Good night.
Say bye-bye to all the witches of the world.
Bye, little witches.
Have the best sleep ever.
Say bye to Big
Bye.
Sister. See Big Sister in there?
Hello. He's
All
making
right.
faces at me now.
Good night, sweethearts. Good night.
Good night.
Mwah. You know, I always tell people that I think Morpheus is a little bit responsible for these children. Just a little.
What? Okay, wait, what?
I have to tell you a story.
Okay.
It's story time for real. So, so what happened was, I was told after I ran away from home at 17 that I could never have children. An incredible amount of scar tissue from an assault I suffered as a child, and blah, 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 no kids for me. And stuff happened, and I got pregnant with older kiddo, and that was all cool and good and stuff, and they exist. But I was told once again, I could never have children. that in essence, if I did get pregnant again, I would just lose the pregnancy. So that was how it was for, nearly 2 decades. And as a devotional project, I reached out to Morpheus about getting a tattoo, which you can see here. It is held up beautifully. So beautiful. Love it. And it was a big act of healing for me because it was covering a scar that was particularly troubling for me. And people asked me awkward, terrible questions about all the time. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that every day anymore. And the tattoo experience was really, really special, of course. And
It was for me as well.
Yeah, we had a lot of weird sort of experiences. And I got home and I really felt very different in a specific kind of way. I don't know. I felt like I got a lot of healing out of that experience. And I guess I got more healing than I expected because about a month later, I found out I was pregnant. And we didn't think we would carry the pregnancy, but decided to give it a try and see what happens. And at the first ultrasound, we were going to the appointment and I told Joe that I was pretty sure it was twins. He asked how I knew, and I said I just did. When I asked to get the tattoo, I wanted this series of moons, but Morpheus, if I recall, had a dream where they added these sun's rays.
Oh, that's right.
And asked if they could be added, and they were.
I forgot about that.
Were conceived on a solar eclipse. You see the moon moving in front of the sun, just like the tattoo. And lo and behold, it was twins, and they still told us we would lose them. So up until the day that they were born, we did not think that they would live, and they did. So we named them Soren and Luna after the sun and the moon from the tattoo. And there they are, and I still think Morpheus is secret godparent. His children. At least that's what I tell everyone.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful.
Yes.
Those
Okay.
stories make me feel just so beloved of what I get to do in my daily work as a tattoo artist. Like, that's just so beautiful.
It was a really meaningful experience for me at a time when I was changing a lot, and that ink became a big part of that story. And I know my magical goal with it was making an oath to a deity, but also making promises to myself that I would grow and heal and change. And I did in very unexpected ways.
Wow. What an
I did-
amazing story.
I did not want to be having more children at 36, but the gods have plans sometimes that are just outside your control.
Yeah.
Poor Rain being thrust into being a big sibling after being an only child for just 16 years.
We all knew that I wanted siblings the whole time, though.
Yeah.
And you would ask me all the time, do you want a brother or a sister? And I'd be like, well both.
Yeah.
And I got both.
Maybe.
I outgrew my hangups on language.
Rain, I saw that you were logged in, but I didn't realize you were one of Mortellus's kids. So nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
I feel like I kind of hide my kids away very, very early on when I was writing Do I Have to Wear Black and publishing. I had an experience with a stalker. They still message me once in a while. The police did fuck all about it. If they're listening, fuck you, please go away. But they sent me some pictures of Rain and made some comments about finding our GPS location in them, and it really scared me a lot. So I super disconnected my social media from my kids. So it's not a lot of that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Understandable.
So it's always weird the way people get connected to folks from a distance, writers and things. And
Parasocial relationships are probably the scariest thing about being an author.
I'm sure we've all had an experience or two like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That can be hard to navigate sometimes.
I've gotten a few messages since this will be my first time going out and doing events in a good long time. And it's, where will you be? What hotel are you at? Here's some pictures you didn't ask for. Ah,
Yeah, that's not okay.
yeah, super not okay. But
I'm not sure if there's anything going on, but Beth just texted me that she's on the YouTube channel, but nothing's happening.
well, I'm still seeing the chat pop up. Let's see. According to the screen we're looking at, we are still live. And I can see
But
us.
Oh
Beth
yeah, it says
texted
YouTube
me
live
that-
in the corner.
Mhm. And we're streaming live now. I just pulled YouTube up and probably ruined everyone's eardrums with the extra audio. So it might tell Beth to restart. It might just be something wacky with their stuff.
All right.
What kind of painting are you working on, Mortis?
I'll show you.
Oh,
Oh.
wow.
Oh,
It's
doing full-
blurring weirdly. I have my background blur on, so it's it's for an Oracle deck that I'm working on with my dear friend Izzy Swanson. So
Ooh, so
Yeah.
more collaborations.
yes, yes.
Super awesome.
Yeah, pretty excited about it. It's watercolor and ink, and I'm doing gold paint detailing right now.
I'm gonna see if I can pull up maybe a sample of one of the illustrations to show everyone. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I can probably share screen and make everyone see all my very sad desktop icons. That's the life. That's the real life. I do that thing where you put them all into one folder on your desktop so the desktop looks clean, but it's a lie. We all know.
The school that I used to teach at, the secretary was less than tech savvy. And so every file, almost every single file was on the desktop because she didn't know how to save anywhere else.
Oh
I
my
had to
goodness.
show her. It was interesting. Then she sneezed directly in my mouth and I refused to help her again.
Oh no.
We were
Oh.
this far apart and she just sneezed directly into my mouth. And of course I was sick the very next day. I was like,
This is an early sort of work in progress. So what we're doing is I'm drawing the base illustration, and then my spouse is going back and painting them, digitally painting them, and then I'm going back and doing typography and other things and all the writing and stuff. But I have this is the death card, and I really wanted people to see themselves in everything and not really make assumptions about the content of the card. And I wanted people to be able to see things they've experienced from their own life in cards and nothing be too fantastical. So that was kind of the,
Ooh.
this was up on Patreon. So of course, all the watermarks, sorry, everybody.
I love it.
So perfect.
carnations.
Carnations, yes. It's a common funeral flower, but it's also a common flower we use for lots of celebrations. And
Is it weird that in my head I'm a little bit thinking of Morticia,
just
you
a
know,
little bit
cutting the heads off
deadheading
of
the
the
flowers.
flowers?
It's fun because I think the cutting is really sort of vague. It's, are they cutting them for an arrangement, or are they deadheading, or are they helping the plants? And
Yeah.
what does
We-
it say about our desire to take things before we appreciate them? And I think there's a lot of message there.
Yeah, it's really cool. So is this a tarot type of deck or like a non-tarot oracle?
It's an oracle, but it will have 78 cards, and it will be in that classic tarot size.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Cool.
I know for my rheumatoid hands, sometimes oracle decks can be really unusual shapes and sizes, and they're a little hard to hold sometimes. And I wanted it to be a deck I would feel comfy holding for long periods of
Mhm.
time. So
Yeah.
what will your deck be about, Marcus?
So our working title is the Heroic Oracle, and it's inspired by Irish hero myths. So Cuchulainn and Finn McCool and Cormac and Scathach and kind of all of these hero tales. And so we've kind of broken down a lot of the important moments and archetypal messages and symbols and things that appear in these stories into kind of story cycles, and built an oracle deck around it.
That's awesome.
So this piece that I'm painting right now, I know it's kind of hard to make out, but it's illustrating the idea of a sword that is inhabited by a spirit, which is
Oh.
a whole thing in these stories. So yeah.
One of my favorite little tidbits, just sort of necromantically, but also in terms of like hero stories, as you see in Scandinavian lore, the use of bone in sword making.
Mhm.
That idea that if you take this bone from your ancestor and you use it to forge this blade, that their spirit will be in it and it will have qualities of that person.
And the carbon actually creates the strength of the blade. And
Yes.
so, yeah.
That place had a lot of really sort of dirty iron, bad iron. So they were forging carbon steel in the funniest kind of way, which I think is fascinating. I do a little bit of blacksmithing, just kind of playing around with it. And I do a lot of silversmithing, but I at one point forged some bone to make bone coke, which is a kind of carbon you can use. And I made a little blade like that. And it was very challenging, but it was a fun project.
I love it.
Rain, what are you learning at school these days?
Oh Lord, sorry. There's a couple of my roommates in here, so there was noise happening. Well, currently I was just thinking about it. I'm in a modern art history class, and it's kind of not my favorite. I mean, it's not, I like my teacher. It's just like I've never been in an art history class, and it wasn't what I thought it would be. I decided to fill my arts credit with an art history instead of art because I'm not very like artistically inclined. Which it somehow didn't get passed down to me. But it's very interesting.
Art history is great.
It is cool. We spend a lot of times. I mean, we look at a lot of pictures. Is what we do. But it's like, okay, now write a 4-page essay on it, and I'm like, this is just a picture. And I don't get that they're like, oh well, I wonder what this artist meant when they made it. I was like, why didn't we just ask them before they died? Why do we have to do it? Why do we have to worry about it now?
I would say, I know you would roll your eyes and then everyone else would look at me like I had wisdom, but I think everybody has a creative spirit in them. You just have to find the thing that's yours.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true.
Creativity can take a lot of different forms.
I like writing poetry. It's just like I can't paint or sculpt or things like that.
There's lots of kinds of art.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that someone just popped in, the fabulous Morgan Daimler, who wrote the foreword for The Bones Fallen Spiral, and who has so many cool books that I'm at a loss for what to choose. But Fairy, The Other World by Many Names is up for pre-order. Their recent book, Freya, the Pagan Portals book, is available. And I was very excited about Into the Shadow, their novel with all the lovely art by Valerie Killer. So tons and tons of stuff. I'm just going to put their entire author page in the chat.
Hiya, Morgan. Good to see you.
I think Morgan is still on mute, but whenever you want to chat with us, you are welcome. I see some comments from folks saying they're hoping to read all of these things by osmosis.
Every single time I do something with you, whether it's a class or just a quick chat or whatever, I always walk away going, my wallet's gonna hate me.
I am sorry if I have had that effect.
Yeah, I'm excited to read your new book. I don't have it yet, but I'm excited about it.
May I send you a
It's
copy
supposed
of
to be tomorrow.
Oh, you're sweet.
Send me your address and I'll send you a copy.
I can't wait until the hardback gets here. I'm just like stuck in the mailbox going, is it here yet? Is it?
Everyone's waiting on the hardback, and I was such a stinker. My poor publisher probably hates me now. I was like, you cannot print that hardback. We have to fix this this printing error. So they're having to repopulate the index for it. So
Yeah,
my
that's
fault.
so fun. I love that. That happened to me with my first book. There was an error on the cover when it first came out.
I was so very sad because on the copyright page, the page numbers for the 2 illustrations my spouse did are wrong. It feels worse when it's someone you love and care about and you want them to
Yeah.
have their things be seen. Now we can see Morgan. Hi.
Hi.
There's your face.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Nice to meet you.
I was looking for a page. I wanted to show everyone this beautiful illustration. This gorgeous hand drawing.
Oh, wow.
That is
That's super
awesome.
cool.
Lovely.
Just is very talented. I'm very proud to have them as a collaborator. I was very proud to collaborate with you, Morgan. When I wrote you to ask if you would do the forward, I was a little nervous that you would probably say no. And I was.
Oh, no, it was awesome. It's such a great book.
I love your forward as well. I'm just really proud that you got to be in there. I figured you of all people would understand a whole world that people just completely misunderstand and stereotype.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I was really happy to get to read it before anyone else. It's always fun. And I'm really flattered you asked me to do the forward. So
I feel like I have this collection of people like you and Morpheus and even Amy who I'm very bad at talking to because I have this like terrible ADHD object permanence kind of thing, but you're all my best friends and I love you. In my head, we talk every day and I forget that people exist.
it happens.
What project do you have right now that you're most excited about, Morgan?
I have a book coming out the beginning of next year. Well, not the beginning, April of next year, about the Otherworld fairy across a bunch of different cultures. And I'm super excited about that one. I think it came out pretty good.
I'm excited to read that one too. I'm always
What's
really
up?
interested in realms is an interest of mine. I think it was probably an exercise in madness to try and make a map of other realms in the Bones Ball in a Spiral. I don't know if anyone caught that, but I tried to map places nobody can see. Amy will tell you because they were there for all the varied ranting about it, but I dug through like so many old books trying to find any reference at all to where places touch, like any kind of historical reference or myth where like you could enter the world of fairy from a dream. It's like, okay, that's a touch point, right? Like finding all that little stuff and then try and make a drawing out of it was a super wacky challenge that I gave myself.
Brave endeavor.
Yeah, I like, how do you do that with, mapping access points to something that is non-local, not non-spatial,
Yeah.
non-linear,
yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
I think non-spatial is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I had a second illustration in here originally and I couldn't really quite get it right, but I had this idea that like, I don't know, where you have the material plane, there's actually these varied material planes that sort of shatter outward, right? So each of them is sort of this stacking puzzle with these varied sort of places, but
Very Inception.
A little bit, I guess. Yeah, a little bit.
Different layers of dream and reality.
Like an onion.
More like string theory, I think, where you have these varied universes that touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more I tried to draw it correctly, though, it more looked like the more it looked like paper plates strung along anal beads, though, and I could not make that illustration work. Sorry, Maurice.
I don't know. No, I'm thinking like that could be the perfect way to illustrate the other world. That's very, very fairy energies on
eye-catching.
there. Definitely not something you would forget.
Terribly sorry for that. There's another illustration in here that I couldn't get right at first. I told Joe at one point, it was like, you would think that of all my times trying to draw this, that I could make it not look like a dick. It just kept being one. This incarnation sigil, and in the beginning it was much more phallic in a very silly sort of way, and I couldn't get out of there. You ever draw something and you just corner yourself somewhere terrible?
That happened to me with a tattoo client. I was designing a Yggdrasil, Norse runic tree project, a big beautiful piece for the back, and I was doing some cool, like, I don't know, Tolkien-esque shapes, and I delivered the sketch, and he was like, I see what you're doing, but there's kind of a penis shape and I can't unsee it. Something about the way, like, the trunk, like, went up and then it opened up and then they came back together at the top, and I don't know. It was like, okay, you're right, I can't unsee it either. We're gonna fix that.
One of my very dear friends and Coven students, and I won't call them out, they would call themselves out. They have this beautiful, and I do mean beautiful, beautiful tattoo of a lighthouse. It's gorgeous, and the color is amazing, the line work is amazing, and it just looks like a dick jutting out of the sea. Once you have seen it, you cannot unsee it, and that's unfortunate. Oh goodness. Once you have made such an association.
Yeah, sometimes you got to step back from your artwork and take a moment to look at it from a different angle.
And that angle is 10-year-old. Speaking of things children would like, someone gave me this amazing little 3D ghost that's been on my desk that I love, because when you pick it up, it has a little sneaker. I love their little shoes.
It's adorable.
Do you have the little the kangaroo that I built you on your desk still?
I don't, but I have this little guy you gave me on my desk, the little cowrie show. My desk is littered with curios that people have sent me. Someone sent me this from the Waverly Sanatorium gift shop. I have some chopsticks someone abandoned in my house. Just all kinds of silly little things. Does everyone else collect desk things like little goblins? It's like, yes, it must be done.
Little totems for your work.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite?
This little tiny rose quartz skull.
One of my favorite things, it's not in here, but that little opal ghost you sent me, I love it so much. I adore that little ghost. It's on my Anubis altar though.
Sometimes my clients bring me little gifts, like this guy.
Oh, it's so cute.
It's a Thoth.
I love it.
This blurring, there we go. I did a big Egyptian piece for her, and so she brought me a little Thoth to say thank you.
That's the one you told me about when I was getting my tattoo. We've probably done others since then, but you mentioned a large.
I did it was a big, like, all down one side of her back set of panels from the Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Book of Going Forth by Day.
Yes, that one. Yeah.
I think it's so sad that we think of it as the Book of the Dead or use that phrase when really it's such a more sort of hopeful sounding name. Book of Going Forth by Day.
Yeah, yeah.
I never knew that was the actual name. I like that a lot better.
Well, there were many of them. Every person would have one of their own. It would be Jean's Book of Going Forth by Day, and it would have panels that are similar to everyone else's, but it would also have stories from your life in it, so that after your death, you could read it and remember your life.
Oh,
It would
okay.
also give you instructions and spells for how to navigate your afterlife.
That part I remembered hearing about.
It's kind of smart, right? Like that's a smart after death piece of magical tech.
It is, it's really cool.
Your,
I
your
love
own
the
personal afterlife GPS.
I love the idea of writing someone's stories down so they don't forget.
Yeah.
There's something just really sweet about that.
I have a theory that some of the like really ancient kind of megalithic artwork kind of stuff that we see like carved on stones in various places, that it's, you know, it's all very abstract and people often, you know, float different theories about how to interpret it, but we don't really know. And one of my theories is that some of those are maps for the dead.
I like that.
They feel cosmological to me, the patterns and shapes and stuff, and I don't know. It's I couldn't substantiate this theory at all. It's just instinctively when I look at them, that's what they look like to me. They look like spirit maps.
I love that. I was gonna pull something up in the background to show everyone listening, since poor Joe had to go take care of children. I thought that I would show everyone some of their art. Here. They draw a lot of cool characters.
So great.
It is very cool.
I really enjoy Joe's paintings. This is one that I'm very fond of, this recent sort of knight figure, and I love all that like wood block kind of sketching. I had a maddening amount of detail. Their illustration of
Oh, such a favorite.
Yeah.
love that illustration.
The way they do details and the way they get eye expressions. Like
Mhm.
the eyes are always so full of life.
I was ranting one day about how I was just sick to tears of seeing all these cheesecakey illustrations of the Morgan. If I
Oh
could
my
just
God.
have one that isn't just tits with a head on it. So
Don't get me started, and I know Morgan has opinions about this too.
they asked what I would want to see, and I told them, and this is what they drew for me.
It's good. It's really good. She's so stern and strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
The
think-
presence feels right.
I think Joe often draws things that will be somewhat sort of gender neutral
Mhm.
for me, and I know this is a feminine viewpoint, but it also has a very strong sort of masculine presence, which I appreciate.
The
This
warrior aspect's definitely there.
This is death that they drew for me. These are printed in little spell cards that you can get in some of the things from my shop, little linen cards for your altar. But I wanted to see a death that looked happy to see you, and that's what they drew for me.
That's wonderful.
Excuse me.
It's great.
I just like looking at people's art. I don't know about all of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I'm constantly on Pinterest adding to my art and illustration board.
Yeah, I have a lot of artists that I follow on my various social media feeds because, you know, I'd rather look at art than a lot of the other stuff that comes up.
Yeah.
And also professionally, I feel like it's really enriching and helpful to kind of expose yourself to lots of other artists' work, you know, and figure out what you
Absolutely.
like, what inspires you.
Absolutely. And I think it's also really important to keep your fingers busy in other types of art or creation, not just the one that you're like focused on. I've done a little bit of a bunch of different things, and every single thing is informed the other, you know, without my theater experience, I wouldn't be as good at writing dialogue, and without and or psychology, and without that, also wouldn't know how to act, and without the drawing classes and the painting, I wouldn't necessarily be able to hold images in my head and describe them.
I think, I don't know, I joke a lot that my web store is either A, stuff I wanted to be able to buy at some point in my witchy life and couldn't ever find, or B, it's just a place for me to dump all my hobbies, because I just like a lot of stuff. But I'm so sorry, I got choked on something a second ago and it's just killing me. But you'd be amazed how much mortuary work really grew my artistic endeavors. Learning to work with a scalpel really improved a ton of things I was doing, from sewing to leatherwork to paper crafts, and yeah, just all kinds of strange little ways in which each different area of your life affects the things you're creating. I put a lot of that chemistry to work making candles or blending scents, or definitely not moonshining to make perfumers alcohol for the perfume I sell. Definitely not the thing I do. Not at all. Yeah, I get up to so much sketchy stuff, probably.
I'm always curious to hear more about your mortuary work.
I feel like I bore people when I talk about it too much. I spend most of my funerary work time fighting the state board for my license. I still do not have it back. Am I a mortician if I don't have my license back? Big questions. I do the work. I just can't receive a paycheck for it. I volunteer. I go wherever I'm needed. Families call me in and I can work for them. And I do continuing education for the state board. They'll keep me from earning an income, but they'll take advantage of my skills for free. I do mortuary consulting on interfaith friendliness and pagan friendliness. That's something I do a lot of. And hospice volunteering is a big part of what I do as well. But my favorite work is volunteering at state labs whenever they need someone to do dissection or autopsy or prepping soft cure bodies for surgical students. They process a lot of remains for the military base there, which nothing sketchier than processing remains for the military, y'all. Here, cremate these people. Who are they? Do we have files? No? Okay. But I do love the work. I tell people all the time that I answer emails and texts. I have a phone number on my website, and I get texts and calls and emails 24/7 from people in all kinds of communities who found my book or found me Googling, and they're usually in a situation where someone has just died and they're having a funeral director disagree with them about their services or something of the like, and they need help navigating that. And then I'll find myself at 2 a.m. calling a funeral director in a flyover state and trying to work it out for them. But I'm glad I can be there for people when they need someone.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people in our community that can do that work.
Yeah.
The ones we have really, really different opinions about it, which I think is not always to our benefit.
Mm-hmm.
We have, I guess, Christopher Hughes, but they don't do embalming. It's not very big where they are. It's not really a big part of what they have to do, but a lot of times in the United States we have to, for forensic purposes, or if there's an autopsy, or we have to travel across state lines. So sometimes it just has to occur. But I think people have a real misunderstanding about what their experience with death is going to be.
Mhm.
So when we have really vocal proponents of things like green burial, those sound like really good ideas, and I think we all want them, but there's a very real privilege and class issue with actually having those things. Particularly when we talk about home burial, one, you might not be zoned for it. Two, you have to own the property. That's a big line right there.
Mhm.
So even if you are zoned for it, are you a homeowner? I mean, that's just this big line in the sand for everybody. Even if you do own that property, you've got to rent a backhoe or be able to dig a big hole, which is an ability issue. We like to think that everyone we love will die warm and pink at home in their beds in their 90s, and that it will all be ideal and perfect, but that is not how a lot of us die. If you are younger than 30 and you die, you're probably getting an autopsy unless they very much expected your death. You will likely die in a manner that is unpleasant or in a hospital. Most people die in hospitals today. That's the vastness of us. If you die tragically in a car accident or something like that, I mean, there are all these circumstances, and sure, every person you can pick up your loved one, take them home if you own your property and are zoned for it, bury them in your backyard, or have a green burial if you can afford it. They're often vastly more expensive than a standard burial.
Yep.
A standard burial is somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000 as a baseline in the United States. Less if you are a member of a religious body that has ground for burial. Cremation is about $1,000, but a baseline for green burial can be 10 grand. That's if you're lucky. But we don't all get those things. And even if you have all these ideal circumstances and you can do all those things, if your loved one has been autopsied or died in an accident, if you can pick up their body, should you? What is that going to be for you mentally? Not every person is prepared to confront death in that kind of way. And not everyone should. I think for those who are able to do it and can withstand that possible trauma, I think it is great to see the dead as they are. But I don't think people are prepared for what it looks like to see their loved one autopsied.
Yeah.
Most people see autopsied remains in movies and they're all tidily sutured up and all that stuff. That is not how they're returned to you from labs. They aren't sutured closed at all. They're just in a bag with their chest open. And they take wire cutters up the sternum. So this piece is just laying in there. And all your organs are just in a plastic bag sitting on your chest. So think about the person you love most in the world and imagine if you could see them that way. That's very difficult. It's a lot to ask of anyone.
Yeah.
It's hard for me when it's people I don't know. So these are real challenges, I think, for the idea of doing something outside the funeral industry. And realistically, every single person that's going to interact with the funeral industry at some point in their life, even if it's not for you, don't have to interact with them for you. You're dead. That's someone else's problem. But you probably have a loved one who has chosen a standard funeral of some kind. So you're going to have to deal with a funeral home in passing at some point. So my big thing is sort of breaking down the barriers between that community and this one, and kind of, here's the language you need to talk to them, and here's what the laws are surrounding religious requests, and really teaching people that language and what those boundaries are of what they can use to fill their needs in a way that's going to be meaningful, because we just don't all have the privilege or the access or the money or the security that gives us all those pretty green things that we want as pagan folks. Someone says that sometimes the YouTube is being a little sketchy, but it's still there. Folks, you'll probably be able to go back and watch if you wanted to, if it's not being totally on point for you right now. I'm not sure why it's being that way.
Spirits.
Probably. We all brought our friends. I don't know. I get really passionate about that topic because
Mhm.
it's kind of like that whole idea of toxic positivity in the community, right? Like,
Right.
how far can you go before it's kind of unhealthy? And the same is true when we talk about death. You can only reclaim death up to the point that is possible for the money and privilege and access you have. Sometimes you have to work with what's available to you and realistic for you and your family.
Mhm.
Ask every person when I'm teaching classes and stuff. It's like, imagine that the person you love the most dies right now, right this second. What can you afford? What do you have access to?
Nothing.
Your best shot is going to be a $900 direct cremation. That's what most people could make happen. You might be able to make a direct burial happen at $1,700. These are federal baselines across the United States. So there has to be access to that price point. And if you can't afford that, you are forced to not claim their body and let the state cremate them. So I always ask people to really think realistically about what they want and what they can do and what they can access, what they can afford. It's not always like the pretty fun thing that we want. We all have shiny ideas. Like I really want an open air cremation. That would be very hard for my family to do if I died today though.
Yeah.
can-
Excarnation. Mhm.
I can wish it, but could they do it? No.
We don't have great options for excarnation.
You can do some off the books stuff. I mean, realistically, you can make a legal argument for an open air cremation on your own property if you owned it and were doing a home burial and you filled out all the paperwork, blah, blah, blah. But realistically, that's a very high bar to meet. And you're also asking the very recently bereaved to do it. It's tough. And managing an open air cremation is really hard in the first place. Like, it takes about 6 hours for the average body to cremate on a pyre. And you need a really hot pyre. You need about an entire cord of very hot burning wood like pine. And that's a lot to upkeep. Holy shit, so much to upkeep. And like, it's not pretty. When people have questions about that, I always tell them to think about roasting a chicken in their oven and everything that happens to it. If you put it in whole, it would eventually split open. If you just kept baking that chicken, everything that happened to it is going to be happening to your family member there. We need people who can be there to stand in the middle sometimes. I wish we had more folks like that. I'm happy every day that I see somebody like post a message and be like, your book inspired me and I'm going to mortuary school now. It's like, yes, I hope I get 1,000 more of me. Go do it. Great. It's awesome. High five. I'll come to your graduations. Just let me know.
The academic fairy god witch.
Yes. Yes. I will not write you letters of recommendation because they won't help you. The industry doesn't like me very much. Speaking of fields that are vaguely medical to go into, Rain is studying nursing.
Well, yes, but also no. I mean, they don't have technically a nursing program at my school, but I am in health science and do want to go to nursing school.
Morgan says goodnight, off to put kids to bed.
I would love to maybe be a labor and delivery nurse.
Mm.
I love babies.
It's like a backwards psychopath. It's very cool work.
So it's very I think that, I mean, I definitely think there's not a lot of of empathy or enough empathy in the medical field, and so I feel like that's a good place to give me the opportunity to do that because I am the most empathetic person ever.
I think that is a very noble goal because, at least from my personal experience, having done it twice, labor and delivery is not always the kindest part of the hospital. It's tough in there for a lot of folks.
No, and they're not trauma informed either, and they should be. Anyone that works in a hospital should be trauma informed, and especially people who are birthing other people.
Mhm. When I had you, there was no dialogue about that kind of thing, and it was super tough. I got to be the recipient of ye old husband stitch when you were born. Fun stuff. And when the twins were born, the hospital they were born at had a survivors program where you could sort of talk about things that might be difficult for you and how they could kind of navigate around that during the birth process. And despite the fact that it was like a very scheduled C-section type thing, on the day of, it was like, oh yeah, forget all that stuff. We don't care about that. We're doing this right now. So it didn't matter at all.
Like, yeah, like beforehand, they're like, oh, tell us everything you need. And then in the moment, it's like, oh, well, what's right for them, not you. And that's
still-
not fair. It should be both of you.
I still remember this this OB-GYN, my OB-GYN saying to me, I have 3 patients in the room and you are the least of them, referring to the twins who were still in my actual body. I'm a whole person. I exist. I hope
Wow.
yeah, it's tough getting told you're an incubator, more or less. But Rain, I hope you are able to bring that empathy to that field. It is much needed.
I definitely hope so. I never actually thought about the fact that me wanting to work with people being born is kind of the opposite of what you do. I never thought about that.
It is though. That's beautiful. Like that's
I gotta go full circle. Gotta finish the little loop.
Rain, you might appreciate this, and anyone listening might appreciate it, but after the C-section with the twins, they gave me the 2 hemostats they clamped their umbilical cords with. They told me at the time that it was cheaper for the hospital to throw out all the instruments after surgery than to sterilize them. It's madness, imagine. So they asked if I just wanted them, and they gave me the scissors as well. And now I use those scissors and hemostats for embalming. And I think there's something really nice about using those same instruments that brought them into the world to usher other people out of the world. Had to mark the handles with nail polish so no other embalmers would accidentally pocket them. These are my hemostats. There are many like them, but these are mine. It is cool though, that kind of link between life and death and how those things carry through. Probably a lot of our work, all of us here have that kind of link in our magic in our daily lives. That's being human, right? Links between life and death.
Are you familiar, or is anybody here familiar with the Light Seers deck in
Mhm.
tarot deck?
Yes,
Have you seen the death card?
I can't recall it off the top of my head.
It works with that concept. I'll just dip real quick to my bedroom and grab it because that's the deck I typically read with.
I also came to, sorry for interrupting you, came to the realization recently that I am more afraid of dying than I thought. Because when I talk about it with people here, it's like, oh, my mom is a mortician and I've been around it and like it doesn't bother me, you know, the idea of like ghosts and death and et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't bother me. That doesn't scare me. So I'm not afraid of death, but I am afraid of dying, which I did not realize before.
There's a bit of psychology that might interest you and everyone else. it originates with, I believe, early Gnostic Jung, but you see it carry over into modern psychology a bit too. And it's the idea that we aren't really afraid of ourselves dying because it's an existential concept. We cannot grasp the idea that we might die because we always see ourselves as immortal in a way. The ego is kind of unbreakable like that. We are the protagonist of our story, so we don't die in it. In a manner of speaking. But what we fear when we think about being afraid of dying is people we love dying. Because we don't want to live without them and we don't want to imagine them living without us. I find it really helpful for myself to sort of think about that when I feel feelings like that and confront the idea that what I'm afraid of is losing people dear to me. And I take that as a challenge to love them as well as I can every day. So with that, I will say I love you very much. And I'm glad you joined us tonight. And
Yeah,
you as well.
I know.
I know.
I feel like one of the things that comes up for people too, at least for myself, when I think about death is like not being here anymore doesn't seem scary. Like when I think about death itself, it sort of feels like an old friend that's waiting for me at the end of a road. But there is this sort of feeling that your story might be cut short of its end. And I feel like for me that's the part of it that can feel scary, like, you know.
I think I'm afraid of leaving people I love unprepared for me being gone. Like Rain or the twins or Joe. It's what would that be like? So I have this book. My folio book. I really love these folio books. If you've ever seen them, they're kind of popular on TikTok for making like murder books in case you get murdered. The name of the company, I'll put it in the chat. Hang
In
on.
case I go missing.
In case I go missing. That's the idea.
What's a murder book?
Yeah.
People who are obsessed with like true crime podcasts, they'll make these books in case they go missing, and it has like all their current details and stuff.
Oh,
Like
Oh,
DNA
okay.
samples and who your friends are and passwords for your social media. And
But I found these very cool folio books through those. I was gonna put it in chat. It's giving me a hard time. So I'll put it up on the screen instead. They're these, they're a little spendy at $45, but I love them because they have each
I
page
see
sort of
little
like
envelopes and
envelopes.
things.
yeah. That can keep you super organized.
Yes, super love it. So I have mine. This is my In Case I Got Dead book. That's what it says on the inside. And one envelope has my advance directive, and another has my healthcare power of attorney, which I keep signed and prepared just in case. Life insurance, funeral planning, vital records. It's where I keep all my social security card and all that stuff. Last will and testament, letters to people I love, and all kinds of other little tidbits, passwords and important stuff. And I update it. I make sure that everything's up to date at least once a month. And every year I check the letters and make sure they're what I want them to say. And I've written my own obituary. I have all that in there. So that helps me quell some of that discomfort. I know that if I died tomorrow, everyone would have everything I needed.
That is so adult.
I feel like one day, you know, when the time comes that myself or Joe and I or whatever, I feel like all your plans, it'll just be like a thumb drive we can plug in, and everything will be right there.
There is a thumb drive and it does have everything scanned in.
Yeah,
There's enough cash in here for my cremation and a list of funeral homes I'm okay with.
I'm not surprised.
And it's super smart that it's not in the house in case there's an issue inside the house.
Yeah, because it like burned down or something.
Yes, I have 3 backups.
It makes my little Virgo heart so happy.
I want to make things as easy as possible for the people I love. Let's see, I even label makered all my letters.
Oh my God. Wow. I stand in awe
Here's
of your
Rachel's
level of
letter.
organization and preparedness.
See, that freaks me out. That feels like someone's like, oh, I gotta tell you something, but I'll tell you tomorrow. No. No, tell me now.
I have instructions for all my belongings. I keep an inventory that I update pretty regularly. It comforts me a lot because I get to know that no one has to think about these things. They don't have to worry about them. That's me doing all the work so that they can just breathe, you know.
Found the card.
Oh, wow.
My
That's amazing.
Death and rebirth.
I love that.
And I love that there's that beautiful, and it incorporates like the star, right?
Mhm.
I love that.
The star is my
Cool.
favorite card. So I just thought that that imagery captured that idea of the connectedness of life and death quite beautifully.
Yeah.
Oh, Amy's bringing out a big box.
So before we transition to the next little thing, I probably should run for the evening. So I'm going to say goodbye and sign off.
I'm so glad you came. Thank you.
Yeah.
meeting you.
Congratulations. I'm really excited for your new book. I'm happy for you. And
Thank you.
thanks for inviting me on.
Send me a message. I'll mail you a copy.
I will. Take care. Have fun tonight.
You too. Bye.
So the Spacious Tarot, I absolutely love. I was looking at different decks when I was going through Blackthorn's Protection Magic. I'm all out of copies. Otherwise I'd be like, oh, look. But I was looking at different images on Google image search for each deck and sort of pulling, I'm a very visual person, pulling the feelings through each one. And so I found the Spacious Tarot through this Google image search. I hadn't seen it before. And it is, for those of you who don't know, it's not the traditional Rider-Waite. It is think of it like the 10 steps back version of those feelings. So like instead of the pages, we have the Child of Swords.
Oh, I love that.
So the open spaces are the point. There's Judgment. But their Death card made me so happy. I immediately bought the deck. The Death card is one of my judgment cards in that I judge how I feel about the deck as a whole very much based on what their Death card looks like. It's the Ace of Wands.
I love that one.
This one.
That is a beautiful deck.
But I couldn't not buy this deck when I saw the Death card.
I love it.
You can see there's little like lichen and moss growing on the bones as they reach for the Tudor rose. Most people forget that lichen is a thing. So oak moss especially is my absolute jam. And the magic for oak moss is hex breaking and renewal and breaking those chains. And I really feel like that's part of the messaging of the Death card is the stuff that really held us back can't anymore. And I really, really love that.
Yeah.
Here's the Hermit.
Oh,
That makes me think of this game that I've been dying to play. I'm such a big sucker for board games. Let's see if I can find a link to it really quickly. It's this really neat little board game called Shadows in the Forest. And I'm gonna pull it out on Amazon just because they have lots of pictures. It makes me think of that Hermit card. So Shadows in the Forest, you have these little the little tree figures, and you have these little forest critters hanging out in the areas of the trees. But you light the lantern, play the game in the dark, and you have to navigate the board, but you really need to stay in the shadows so that you aren't found. So it's quite fun. I
Those
love
look
the
like the little pop-ups you made for last Samhain.
Yes. I love the idea of playing in the dark though. I think that's really cute. And the little figurines, their faces glow, which is fun.
That's adorable.
So I don't want to keep everyone on super, super late, but I have two things. You can pick. Do you want me to read something from the book, or do you want me to read my obituary?
Both?
Why are you why are you asking me to choose between my children? Sorry, that was probably a terrible thing to say.
Terrible, terrible. I mean, I'll do both if you want.
I got nothing planned for the rest of the night. I'm sure as hell not doing laundry.
Okay. Well, I'll read the obituary first because I have it out, and then I can put my folio away.
My Aunt Mary, who you would have loved, she also wrote her own obituary.
It says at the top, in case I get dead. In loving memory of myself. I've been a person of many names, but those most dear to me were wife to the man that I loved, mother to my children, witch, and friend. Why am I writing these words? Because I didn't want anyone to say that I passed on or left or transitioned anywhere. I died. I'm dead. I lived a colorful life with precious few regrets, spent largely in the pursuit of knowledge. I wasn't always the easiest person to get close to, but if you managed it, I loved you with all that I was. People said they loved my strength, my honesty, and often those were the things they couldn't stand most about me as well. There were so many things I was passionate about. How could I possibly share them all? But most of all, I wanted all who knew me to feel changed for the better by us having crossed paths. Death came to be my great calling, and I didn't want anyone to approach those dread doors with trepidation. Know that if I have a single thing to say about it, I'll be waiting just on the other side of the veil, should you need me, and I'll be ready to walk with you into the darkness when your time comes. I was never one for forgiveness. If you were cruel to me in life, don't grieve me in death. For those who are part of my journey, thank you. You had my love. My heart spent its last moment breaking that I had to leave behind my best friend, Joseph, in this lonely world. I loved you with a desperate and fierce kind of love. It burned with such fire that I hope that it keeps you warm to the end of your days. To my children, Rhiannon, Soren, and Luna, I loved you with every ounce of my being. I will not say that I am survived by my family. I survived them. Don't spare them your tears. To them, I died a long time ago. I do, however, leave behind two sisters who tried to make a family between us with what we were given. It meant so much that you took the time to see me. Now comes the time for me to say my last goodbye. Death is only the end if you assume the story is about you. Make the rest of the story great, everyone. I miss you already.
So we're all weeping, right?
Yep, we're all crying.
Well, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
They're in junk, okay?
I have one last sip of liquor, so you know, it works. Cheers.
I asked in the end that a private memorial service and funeral ritual be hosted by my coven following a private service. And I asked that you and laurel trees be planted in my memory. In lieu of greenery, acts of service should be offered to the people that you love.
That's the way to do it.
Good.
Did I balance the sappiness with the petty meanness?
We wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, and the way that you did the pennies was so beautiful. Like that was elegant.
I don't know. I think that's a really good exercise. That's something that I ask my Coven students to do at Samhain, is to sit down and write yourself a eulogy. Get out a photograph of yourself and put it in an 8x10. Pick the one your grandma would have picked of you. You know, that picture you hate that everyone would choose for your funeral. Put it on the table, get some tissues and some flowers that someone else would have chosen for you, and eulogize yourself. Read that out and take a moment to consider what you might be remembered as when you're gone, if you were gone today. One of those things that, I don't know, and trigger warning, I suppose, but as someone who survived a suicide attempt in my early years, I find an obituary really motivational. Just every day sort of thinking about the fact that it's just not a cool enough obituary yet. I have to keep doing more things, you know, work a little harder.
I'm going for the Charlie's Angels montage.
I thought of you yesterday, Amy, because I was cramming energy bars into every possible crevice of my luggage and my coat. And it was like, this is me with knives, but also me with food when I'm traveling. It's like, where don't I have an energy bar? I feel like I need it also. Where isn't there some candy on my person?
No, because we will be anywhere. It's like, we could be the most high security building ever. It's like, I need something to open this. Mom's like, here's a knife. Where did that come from? Oh, my shoe, my underpants, you know, just wherever I could, wherever I could get it.
Do you remember the time we toured the White House, right? And I
Yes.
took in a blowtorch.
I don't remember that. I remember walking through security as like a 7-year-old and no one stopped me ever. I could have had a bomb strapped to my chest and no one would have cared. He was flying through.
Billy heard me laughing so hard she had to come and make sure I was okay.
I just would like the record to show that the memorial in, like, the arch in St. Louis did a better job of security checking me than the White House. Real talk. I have a reputation of just pulling whatever is needed out of a bag. Like, oh, did you need like an entire camping tent?
Mary Poppins' bag.
Yes, Rain will tell you it's whatever is needed in the moment. I have it probably.
They're everything. And that has now been passed on to me, but mostly with medical supplies. I have a first aid kit in my purse and on my person and in my book bag and in my room.
I don't know what other people send young people when they're going off to college, but what I sent was a very extensive medical kit. All the stuff.
I think you sent
Portable
me
door lock.
You sent me a medical kit, Plan B, and that door lock for emergencies.
And a safe. I sent you a gun
And
safe.
a safe, small safe.
Excuse me, what?
I hear Rain's roommates being.
Yep, they just muted themselves. I think she probably has some explaining to do.
I send Rain like mountains of Plan B, so much that we can't send it in a boxes. We take the packs out and staple them to instructions, like just satchels of them to give away at college. And probably other kinds of medication that feminine type people might benefit from that are hard to come by, but I can't confirm or deny that.
I stay strapped, as we say. I have plenty of all of those things.
I hope you're using them to take care of other people too. You know,
Honestly, I do. Every time I meet like someone and they get past the threshold of like friends with me or anything like that, I'm like, by the way, I have this arsenal of things. If you ever need them, just hit me up.
I think my mother was the only mother in my dormitory my freshman year of college that sent me with a first aid kit that included things like cough syrup and pads and
I used to
things like just simple things like that.
allergy pills, Imodium, all the stuff. Like, yeah, like
Oh, my roommate who that's a whole nother story, but she was pissed because it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning. Nurse Jean, fuck you want now?
oh no.
I have diarrhea. What do I do? Eat a banana.
Well, I promised something from the book. So do you want epilogue? The passage where I talk about somebody calling me a heretic?
That sounds spicy.
Or let's see.
What's your favorite passage?
Oh gosh, that's to all of them because I
Oh,
pulled them
okay.
all out of my meat.
Yes.
I don't know. I really do like the section about the necromantic circle. It's where I get called a heretic. If you want, I'll read you that bit. Votes?
Oh, I have vote yes.
I'm just thrilled to, hear it. So, because I can't get my hands on it till tomorrow.
Well, this is from chapter 7, Necromancy in Practice, which opens with a quote from Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book. Behold, be dust, be dream, be wind, be night, be dark, be wish, be mind. Now slip, now slide, now move, unseen, above, beneath, betwixt, between. I used to read that book to Rain as a bedtime story. Spent a lot of hours with that book. But in Forbidden Rites, a necromancer's manual of the 15th century, Richard Kickheffer writes that the rites contained in a manual of necromancy are flamboyantly transgressive, even carrying transgression toward its furthest imaginable limits. I thought of that line when sharing a portion of the rituals contained herein, only to be told that they seemed heretical. This was particularly funny to me at the time, given that the person saying as much was also Gardnerian Wiccan, and the idea that we might have an orthodoxy that one might commit heresy against in the first place is absurd. You see, heresy is to have an opinion profoundly at odds with generally accepted orthodoxy, beliefs or practices generally accepted to be correct. And I can't get a dozen witches in my living room to agree on a type of pizza, least of all a dozen covens to agree on what are correct practices for a Wiccan, Gardnerian or otherwise. But where it really falls apart for me is the idea that necromancy, or rather my personal take on it, is profoundly at odds with Wicca. Oh no, you think to yourself, recalling the prologue in which I insisted this book would not be fluffy. Yes, the practice I have provided here is foundationally Wiccan in flavor, and I don't intend to be apologetic about that. Am I Wicca washing necromancy? Absolutely not. This is a choice. It's purposeful. Classically, Wiccan rituals at the least have been led by a pair of individuals with one ostensibly representative of life and the other death. And somewhere between lies a balance of reincarnation, rebirth, and that story that is creation. So it was that rather than considering what makes a ritual necromantic, I found myself considering instead what makes the ones we are all too familiar with about life. The general construct of a magic circle is reasonably straightforward. Declare your intentions, consecrate needed items, cast the circle, call quarters, invoke necessary figures, do any intended work, make offerings, and close the space. On a more metaphorical level, the magic circle could be described as a great clock, midnight set in the east, entrances, beginnings, turning on a pivot point. This circle, with its quarters neatly laid out, represents a build of energy upward, round and round, right hip to the altar as we move clockwise, creating. But why? Life is linear, and as we move forward in our inexorable march toward death, the hands of the clock move ever forward, the right hand in which we hold our athami, positioning the body's inferior vena cava toward the center, a reminder that, as is nature's way, we are dying. Historically, necromantic rituals have relied upon the concept of invoking death as a return, and therefore of reversals. So what then does it mean to turn this life-oriented magic circle on its head? Our clock face reoriented, midnight now lies in the west, and we begin and end our circumambulations there. That cross-quarter compass laid out across its face is now a crossroads, a path by which the dead might travel to and from this place. Athami in the left hand, we move counterclockwise around, now anchored to our magic circle, the side of the body on which lies the descending aorta, from which life-giving oxygenated blood flows into our bodies, the left atrium of our heart having revived, nay, raised from the dead. Lifeless, deoxygenated blood within the context of our own body's natural systems. What then is functionally different about this necromantic ritual? Walking our ritual back in time, we begin with libations and end with consecration. Rather than building up a cone of power, our energy reversed spirals down into the cavernous depths of the earth. In many folk practices, one danced anti-clockwise around a grave to summon the dead and commune with them. Here we dance round an altar, a bowl of grave dirt at its center. The shades of the dead spun upward to walk the path that we have laid down for them. A necromantic ritual is, in essence, adjusting your intention and turning your magic on its head. The center of our magic circle, now truly a fulcrum point upon which we might declare mastery over both palinogenesis and death. Just because necromantic magic operates on a system of reversals doesn't make it a perversion of anything at all. Rather, that to have no elements of death at all is the perversion. We have forgotten that death is part of the balance. For, as Samuel Beckett said in Waiting for Godot, we give birth astride a grave, the light gleams an instant, then it's night once more. Necromancy isn't really about death, it's about birth. For any magic that is about life will always be about decay, and the magic of death cannot help but be about living.
Cheers.
Truth.
It was my father-in-law that said I was heretical. He wasn't serious. But I was like, do we have orthodoxy? Is this possible? I don't know. I think when we're talking about sort of moving clockwise around a circle, I mean, we are sort of mimicking those actions of walking toward our death. The clock is moving time forward. We are always moving forward, ticking away those moments. But when we work death magic in that kind of circle, we are forced to turn around and think about what it means to truly be alive, what our lives have been, what it means to have occupied this space as a living, breathing human being. And I think that death magic really calls upon you to be the most alive you can be. And conversely, I do think that when you have magic that is so oriented in life and fertility that you've reduced the horned god of death and resurrection to nothing more than a boner, you are doing something that is so rooted in decay that it just doesn't hold up. It's that kind of toxic positivity we were talking about, where we look at the bright, shiny things so much that we blind ourselves in the sun, or we forget that we are dying. So we don't really live. I think necromancy is a really positive kind of magic, counterintuitively. I'm probably not the fun kind of necromancer, though. People like the ones with the heavy guy liner and the Hot Topic clothes and whatever. Because I have plenty of Hot Topic clothes. Real talk.
David Tennant leather pants, like I'm there.
Yes, I'm here for it. Poor Rain, everything in their whole life has always been flipped around to death somehow.
Yes, always.
Always, always.
Or anything to do with the human body in general.
Yes. Though, Rain, you must admit you've had some unique experiences in your life. Not many young people can say they got to just sit in on autopsies and embalmings and
I
dissections.
did. I will always remember seeing that hard cured body for the first time. I will not say names. I know I'm not supposed to.
Just making sure.
Yeah, I always remember seeing a hard cured body for the first time, and it smelled like pork rinds. I didn't eat pork rinds for a long time.
I don't blame you.
Nobody is ready for the fact that a prep room smells like pure sugar, though. It just smells so sweet in there. Decay has such a strongly sugary smell. That's always a surprise. Pork rinds, though.
Actually, seeing the person that you guys were doing your lab on, I mean, it actually, I guess, bothered me the least.
Mhm.
One of my roommates is talking to the cat.
Hello,
But
cat.
I think it bothered me the least because they just looked like they were sleeping, and they were like so pretty and peaceful, and it was just, yeah, it wasn't scary at all.
The case that Rain is talking about was someone feminine presenting and particularly close to Rain's own age. So I imagine that was much tougher. I do remember, Rain, you saying at the time that the worst thing you saw that day was me very confidently running a great big suture needle through someone's leg. They weren't prepared.
I wasn't prepared for because you push and then all of a sudden all of it goes through. And that's not the texture you expect. But there's so many different layers that it kind of like pops through. And it is very strange.
I think
Sounds like.
truly, hot take. I really think everybody should have experiences like that in their life. I really wish the funeral industry was deregulated. And I think that if it were a situation where basically any person could get a part-time job at a funeral home, just doing assistant work, right? Where you're just like helping set up for funerals and that kind of stuff. I think that would be so good for people. We would be healthier as a society if more people had experiences like what Rain grew up around, just being able to see those things really intimately and up close and just sort of demystify them.
It's hard to you kind of have to fight your own brain when it happens, because you know you're in a safe environment, you know, being at a school, you know you're safe, but seeing or smelling a dead human, your brain goes on red alert, and so you kind of have to calm your brain down. But I don't know, it's a really weird feeling. So you're like, red alert, there's a dead person, you need to leave, but it's
that is a very lizard brain response. Like you just instinctively know the scent of a decaying human body and you do not want to be near it. But I have to give mad props to Rain. I have been in that lab many a time and I have seen grown ass cishet men in their fucking 50s who think they're hot shit, like in surgical programs, not be able to handle it. Like come into the room and they're vomiting in the sink and they have to bail out. Like
I think I had to walk out for a second to go eat a donut to calm down, but after that I was fine.
That's such a real response too. People in the funeral industry talk about that. Nothing makes you hungry quite like being in labs. I think it's such a grounding thing where it's a very alive thing to do is eat. But
right.
Nothing makes you want like pasta and red sauce quite like an autopsy. Just something about it. You want carbs. You want tomato sauce. And that's the worst too, because basically anyone, if you have someone there that you're supposed to be teaching something, you're always saying, feel for the thing that feels like an al dente piece of pasta. That's what the venous structures feel like. So you spend all day talking about noodles, and then you're like, I'm gonna need some lasagna later. Terrible.
I thought it was really cool, but I remember being really put off because they keep an amount of air in their lungs, and mom's teacher was like, why don't you push down and see how the air feels back when it comes back up? And I didn't know that when I would press down it would feel like pop rocks under my fingers.
That decedent was a smoker.
Why does it do that? It's very upsetting to me.
This was back when I was still a student. Yeah, smokers, if you just slightly compress their lungs, it has the exact sound of pulling like tissue paper out of a gift and crinkling it in your fingers. Exactly the same. The same. It is kind of a pop rocks kind of crinkly sound.
Oh my.
That's not as bad as people who vape, though. People ask me sometimes, which is worse, people who vape or people who smoke, and they're both terrible. But vape lungs are way grosser. They have so much glycerin in them that you could just squeeze it out. It really gets in your lungs. It's super gross.
Reason number 7,897. I will never smoke a damn thing if I can help it.
Super funky.
Every once in a while, I'll take a hit off of something, but I'm not. No. First of all, I don't like it. Second of all, I hear that and I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's funky. I mean,
No, I
smokers'
want a
lungs
nice
are no,
autopsy.
they're no joke either. Shriveled and black and crinkly.
I remember vividly as a very young child, like single digits, there was some kind of a health fair that was during the summer and it was held out at the high school. And they had tongues. One was a smoker, one was not. They had like fake boobs. One had cancerous lumps and one didn't. And they had lungs. They had actual like preserved people's lungs on display. One was smoker and one was not. I was like, I don't want that.
I saw a display like that in a museum once, and they had this big resin box beside it with a slot in the top because people would throw their cigarettes away in it when they saw this. And it was just filled with packs of cigarettes.
Yep. The worst part was like it was interactive, so you touched it, so like you actually like were touching the boob and feeling the lumps, but they gave you depressors and you pressed on the tongue and the moisture seeped out and it was just like can't.
Well, I think the takeaway from today's live stream is do drugs, but be safe about it and don't smoke anything. Just don't smoke. No, thank you both for hanging out with me tonight. It means a lot. I'm not going to keep anyone much longer. It's getting quite late, and I'm very grateful to Rain for hanging out. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, a rare treat.
It was very
Yeah,
nice.
definitely a new
thing.
Yeah, you too, both of you. Very interesting experience. I've never been on a live stream before.
Well, you'll have to pop in again sometime and hang out. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Tell us all about life at the school. I was enjoying a video Rain sent the other day where they set up this big bubble foamer on the quad and everyone was just playing in bubbles. Like, why don't the old people get stuff like that? Forget office pizza party. I want a bubble thing.
I want a bubble rave in the.
I think it is so hilarious that when you're in high school, all the teachers are like, the professors they're not gonna like you, they're not gonna take your excuses, like you're always gonna be studying, you can't hang out or party too much. And now we're here and we literally have foam parties and trivia and like and hide and seek events. Like we do all this kid stuff all the time.
That was how it was when I was in school. Like the best day at college was when they would rent all the fucking bounce houses and stuff. We'd be out there jumping, acting a fool.
We had a foam party. That was a lot of fun. Till I got lost in a wall of foam. They had to dig me out.
Nice.
You can't tell in here, but I'm barely 5'2".
Okay,
So-
so like,
So I'm just wandering over to watch for
Covered
you.
me. The only reason they found me is because I was doing this so they could see my fingers.
so what we need to do is like, I don't know, one of those change.org petitions. It's like petition pagan convention thing to please have a foam party.
Yes.
And because it's just a vendor that you rent, and it's like just a machine they roll out with, and they'll DJ and play music, and it's so fun.
Yes. I think that's the thing that we need in our lives.
The other thing that Chatham did, because I went to Chatham when it was still all girls, was they had a bonfire night at the very end, the very like last day, just before graduation, where because as a senior you have to do a tutorial, which is basically a thesis, right? It's a huge, mine wound up being like something like 300 or 400 pages. And the tradition was the seniors did it first. All of your school paperwork, and at least one of you printed off one copy of your tutorial to turn in, and you printed off another to throw in the bonfire. And then after the seniors, everyone else who had papers that they wanted to get rid of, you burnt them, and everybody danced around the fire. And I was like, this is wonderful. This is basically a pagan ceremony.
I love that. I am so here for that.
They also used to throw the president in the pond, but they don't do that anymore because no one told the president of the school at that time that they were going to do that, and they ruined her favorite soup.
I just logged back into YouTube proper. I had the chat screen up, but I thought it might be stalled out, and so many people are talking to us and I just can't see it, or I couldn't see it. I'm bad at this, y'all. Very distinctly terrible at this. People are talking about smoking being gross and pork rinds, no. No. We have votes for Let's All Make If I Get Dead books. Yes, please. Yes, everyone. Please make your own If I Get Dead book. Blow torches, yes. There's weeping for a while, so are we talking about obituaries? Maybe, probably. I'm sorry, everyone. So bad at chat. I hope everyone who's listening along with us will forgive my being terrible at stuff. Nevertheless, this is fun. We should do more of this. I think it would be so fun. Just like, God, a live stream now and again with just whoever wants to log in and just,
Yes.
yes.
I am here for it.
Yeah, and just talk and be humans and gab and share stuff like our neat decks. My favorite deck, critical thinking cards. I love these because you can go on their website and it only costs $10 to anonymously mail some of these to someone that you think really needs to be a better critical thinker.
I'd go bankrupt.
Let's pick one randomly. Let's see. The halo effect. How much you like someone or how attractive they are influences your other judgments of them. If you notice that you're giving consistently high or low marks across the board, it's worth considering that your judgment might be suffering from the halo effect. There are also fallacies. Pick one. The gambler's fallacy. Believing that runs occur to statistically independent phenomena such as roulette wheel spins. Red had come up 6 times in a row on the roulette wheel, so Greg knew that it was close to certain that black would be next up. Suffering an economic form of natural selection with this thinking, he soon lost all his savings. There's a game you can play with these. So what you're supposed to do is put the deck out on the table and watch like the morning news or whatever with a friend, and whoever spots a fallacy or a bias can take the card and you can put it out like when something comes up on the news, and whoever spots the most of them at the end of the program wins the hand.
Nice.
What a fun way to encourage people to think more critically about stuff. But they also make, you might like this, Amy. I love this. They also make a creative thinking deck, which I keep them both on my desk because I love them. And they, for anyone with economic access barriers, you can download these as a poster that you can just print out for free from their website. You don't have to buy them, they're just available, but you can buy them, they're pretty cheap. But
The art on the critical thinking one looked familiar. I think there is a poster of the logical fallacies from them in one of my classrooms.
nice, that's cool. There are a few versions of the posters, the logical fallacies and the biases and so on. But these just give you random ideas to spur your creativity. Let's see. Second order thinking, consider the flow-on effects. What might the consequences of the problem or solution entail, and what are the variables at play? How might a family member of the target audience of your creative piece react to it? How could time, complications, or feedback loops influence the work? It's an interesting question. How might a family member of the person reading your work be affected by it? Externalizing thought is fun. Recontext. How would you have solved this problem in the future or the past? What about in a different cultural context? There's just fun little things to pull out when you're feeling stumped. Find it handy when I hit the writer's block, pull it out. See what might come out of it.
Love it.
It reminds me of when I used to teach creative writing. I would start each class with a prompt, and they would have like the first 5, 10 if they wanted extra and were really going at it, but they had the first 5 minutes of class to just write something with the prompt, and it would be I would just pull the best ones I could find from Pinterest. And one of them, the most popular one was an assassin and a photographer go on a blind date, and they're both talking about the perfect shot. Write the conversation.
I love it.
They loved that one. The other one that they loved was it was just one line of dialogue. What do you mean you pickpocketed the president of the United States? I just random things just to get the juices flowing.
There are some comments in chat. Yes, please. Which nerd hangouts with Mortellus and friends?
I'm down.
Totally down.
It's not Tuesday nights because Tuesday nights are dance practice.
What are some of your favorite things you just have kind of floating around your everyday space that aren't pagan things, like my critical thinking cards, like that kind of thing? Forever in my lap, Tylenol. That's duckies. Oh,
Lego Shakespeare.
Tiny Shakespeare, yes.
He was William was a gift from my landlord's daughter because I taught her for high school, and she gave me this on the last day that I ever taught. And the ducky was from the very first burlesque show that I ever attended, where I got hooked. And someone did a Go-Go Godzilla number dressed as Godzilla, and they had a cardboard cutout. They'd boxes stacked to look like downtown Pittsburgh. And we had the giant rubber duck visiting us at that time. So she threw all of these. And let's see. It still squeaks.
Old tiny Shakespeare needs tiny Uric. Alas.
Those are two, those sit right under my TV.
You have chives. Cloves.
Cloves. I have a container of ground cloves that lives on my desk.
I love cloves.
Such a nice smell.
And it's not as much as the essential oil is, so it's got the warmth and the depth without the
probably gonna embarrass myself. Amy's seen me do this stupid parade, but so earlier in the year, I guess, I had a mammogram because that's what adults do if you have titties, I guess. And they give you these stupid wipes afterward. Like somehow this fucking wet wipe, like you'd get at a wing joint, is going to wipe away the shame of what you have just experienced. It won't. But I kept one because I love the name, Mammo Wipe. Mammo Wipe sounds like a ray gun that a cartoonish villain in a Cartoon Network show came up with, and it like removes all titties from the earth if you do not give them $1 million or something. Mammo Wipe. It's just
Sounds like a teenage boy having to delete all the boobs off his computer. A memo.
Yeah.
Wipe.
it's a button, the Mammo Wipe. Yes.
Oh no, my parents are coming.
I'm gonna keep that for the rest of my life. Bury me with it. I'll put it in the if I get dead binder, because this is stupid. The Mammo Wipe.
Oh, I'm smiling so hard, my face hurts.
What inspires you while you write necromancy, Mortellus? Not a grown-up.
Don't become one. It's highly overrated.
Those
Zero
t-shirts.
bars would not recommend.
Oh, I have to show everyone something. Where is it? No, I left the one in the house. So I have here. Are they both on my bedside table? No, they're not. I recently was sent a book by someone I did a tarot reading for a while back.
Oh, how
And
wonderful.
they were looking for inspiration for writing, just trying to like get over some vulnerability, and they messaged to tell me that the reading helped, and they did in fact write the book. So this is Tales from a Broken Girl by Christine, and it's a collection of poems, and I was just so honored to get this book.
I want that. I want that.
Yeah, it was really special, and it's available on Amazon. And I was just so proud to have been part of this book story. The hardest part of writing is just doing it. Just
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
I see. People are being amused by Mammo Wipes and Shakespeare. I feel like Shakespeare would have totally gotten on board with Mammo Wipes. It just
Oh yeah.
That's
it
amazing.
seems like the guy who
That's
invented the word poo would.
Yeah. He was basically a 12-year-old boy with, literary
Funding.
genius.
Yes. Rain, you need to take that to your art history class. Tell them that Shakespeare would have loved Mammo Wipes, and that's all you have to say about art history forever.
We don't talk about Shakespeare in that class at all.
You should, though. You should be allowed to bring up Shakespeare anywhere.
Is that like a new law? Is that in like
Yes.
the Constitution?
It is, yes.
You can bring up
Pretty sure.
Shakespeare anywhere.
I mean, there is seriously a lot of
And they
art.
can't make me go to Mexico.
You can't
Do you remember that?
go to Mexico.
Do
Yes.
you remember that comedy skit? That was so funny.
Rest in peace. He died.
He died? Oh my gosh, that's so sad.
I'll put a link. So Trevor Moore from Kids in the Hall, he passed away last year, I think. I can't recall off the top of my head, but they did pass away. And there was for a while a Comedy Central program where basically they had comedians come in and they just would tell a story about something they encountered in their real life, and it was meant to be different from their regular comedy routines where they're talking about life experiences. And Trevor Moore tells a story about the time that he escaped Mexico, and it's pretty delightful. So I'll put it in the chat for everyone. If it'll let me, it just does not want me sharing links in there. Goodness. I don't think I've ever accidentally gone to another country. Least of all,
It's easier than you think.
it is easier than you would think, according to this story. Yes. But for an act of necromancy, I think we could all appreciate the words of this deceased comic. And if you have a chance to give a listen to this very funny story about going to Mexico, it's worth a listen. Rain's right, though. You can't be made to go to Mexico. Can't be forced to go there.
It's also an Ailstorm song.
I wonder if they're related, connected, the two stories.
I don't know. The Mexico song by Ailstorm is all about tequila and donkey shows.
Hmm.
That sounds like Hailstorm.
Yep.
Well, most of this story takes place in a car, so I don't think they're related. But
Maybe Ailstorm was the soundtrack.
maybe. Oh my goodness. It is ticked over to 10 o'clock, and I swore I wouldn't keep anyone later than 10 because I feel bad. I'm taking up all your time. What's the thing? I've taken up enough of your time now. I just got it's how you escape.
And then you spend 5-10 minutes talking around the car.
Well, you do that at the door of the house, and then out onto the porch, and then at the car, and then once they're in the car.
Yep.
It's a southern goodbye right there. Takes an hour.
Well, we do it in St. Mary's, and that's up north. So
Oh.
maybe it's just a blue collar thing.
Maybe.
This is why I started Irish goodbyeing people. Because in my family, you say goodbye at the kitchen, and then you say goodbye at the door, and you say goodbye on the porch. And then as you're driving, you're backing out of the driveway, they're following you. Like, no, I just dip.
My late grandfather on my dad's side, they lived out in the country, and when he still had most of his faculties and was living on his own, when we would be driving away, we couldn't drive fast because it was, country dirt road. So he would come up behind the car and pound on the trunk.
Oh my goodness. Cassandra says we have to hug and dilly dally on the way out now. I was gonna do as a goodbye. There's a little bitty quote here. Where'd it go? You'd think I'd know my own book.
You'd be wrong.
Your book is
I always
Sorry.
think that I know where stuff is, and it's just never where I think it was.
It's like you can
Story
write
time.
100,000 words, but try and sum that up into a sentence. Mm-mm.
So Bones Fall in a Spiral is going to be Cultum Laborum's book for October and November.
That's awesome. You have to send me a link or something.
Oh yeah. Whenever we do the meeting, we'll be doing a meeting in October and one in November. And I know both of those are going to be super busy months with holidays and you traveling and everything, but I'll make sure that I know you're part of the club. So I just always invite all members whenever there's a meeting.
If you, I'm very, very historically terrible at keeping up with stuff like that because I get an insane amount of messages. But if you directly message it to me,
Okay.
if I possibly can, I'll show up. I'll make it very awkward for anyone to be unbiased and give critical commentary.
That's what we want.
Yes, for sure.
With any luck, hopefully when you're in Ohio, I can afford to come over because that's only a few hours from Pittsburgh, but I don't drive.
I would like that very much. I have yet to find the thing I wanted to find, by the way.
If I can make it in person, do I have permission to give you a big hug?
I can never promise ahead of time. If it's in me on the day, I will.
Oh,
promise.
I can't even get a hug promise from Will.
Mental health is weird. It's super
Definitely.
weird.
Mad respect for that.
Super weird.
Mom invited me on the Kansas trip, and I told them that I would go if they bought me a Dorothy dress to wear the entire time. I don't think anyone wants to go to Kansas.
Do people want to go to Kansas?
Well, I was just at Goodwill right before this and they had Toto in a basket on the Halloween table.
That feels
Nice.
very appropriate. Very, very appropriate. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at my own book. How is this possible? I've read it like 1,000 times. I wrote it. And I can't find what I wanted to find.
That's why I get Kindle and paperback versions, because I can hit the search button.
No, I was going to leave everyone with a quote from The Haunting of Hill House, which I probably could have just Googled instead of flipping through this goddamn book. Stephen Crane says in a narration, a voiceover, this line, which I love very much. Ghosts are guilt, ghosts are secrets, ghosts are regrets and failings, but most times, a ghost is a wish.
That is profound as hell.
Mhm.
Thank you all for celebrating my book's birthday with me. And I hope if nothing else, people will take away the fact that I think that Death Magic is profoundly hopeful and filled with life, and that the dead are wishes. There are wishes to live on, and there are wishes to see and hear our loved ones again. And there are wishes to overcome those fears of death and letting go, because they tell us that there's something else that we can see and touch and hear, and maybe find ourselves with them again one day. Magic doesn't require you to believe anything at all, but necromancy at the very least requires that you believe in the dead, believe in something after living, and I hope folks will take that and hold it in their heart. I love you all, especially Rain, because I have to, legally required.
Contractually obligated.
And thank you everyone who was listening and chatting, and I was being bad at chatting with, because I can't walk and chew gum, least of all talk and also chat. You saw me trying to find a quote in my own book that I wrote. Forgive me, I'm bad at peopling. But thank you all and good night.
Thank you. Much love and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Rain,
for
lovely
hanging
to
out
meet
with us.
you.
It was nice meeting all you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.